Good morning, dear colleagues. So as I was introduced, I'm Brother Kliment from the Dominican Order, and I'm dealing with the problematics of the Old Church Slavonic literacy and the Greek patristics mainly. And today I would like to discuss with you a fragmentary Macedonian Cyrillic leaf, and we will focus on the patristic sources of this Old Church Slavonic fragmentary text. So this presentation aims to explore how the contextual reading of patristic quotations can deepen our understanding of early Slavic translation theory. I admit that it goes a little behind the main focus of this conference, but I wish that it enriches the discussion. So at first, what is so-called Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf? So this presentation deals into the Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf, which is a key text for the study of Slavic literary translation theory. It significantly influenced John the Exarch's foreword to the dogmatic treatise Nebesa, composed by the end of the 9th century in Bulgaria, which includes selected chapters from John of Damascus' treatise De Fide Orthodoxa. The content of Macedonian Leaf provides insight into the debates on translation fidelity and the importance of expressing meaning in biblical translations. These debates were crucial in the formation of Slavic Christian literary culture, as they influenced how sacred texts were translated and interpreted. What is the Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf? Unfortunately, the image that you can see is very poor. I made several photocopies from one publication dedicated to the fragments, Slavic fragments from Slavic areas. So you can distribute. The Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf is a damaged parchment fragment dated to the 11th or 12th century. You can also see its low quality image in the slide here. It discusses the principles of translation between Greek and Old Church Slavonic. Despite its damaged state, Macedonian Leaf is a foundational text that provides valuable insights into early Slavic translation theory. It is considered a key example of how translations were not just linguistic exercises, but also deeply intertwined with theological, cultural, and aesthetic context. And I would emphasize the word aesthetic. The text emphasizes that translation should capture the meaning of the original, reflecting broader debates on how to render sacred texts faithfully. Something about dating and authorship. Macedonian Leaf is dated to the 11th or 12th century based on its linguistic and paleographic features. That's not me. More competent authors conclude to this dating. There is ongoing debate about its authorship, with some scholars suggesting it could be connected to Constantine Cyril himself. Why? I would add that the theory of looser translation is traditionally linked to the founder of Slavic mission. From a linguistic point of view, there is a significant proximity to other important works dated to the end of the 9th century, like the nomocanon, so the translation of laws, church laws, and homiletic texts connected to the Preslavian milieu, such as the Codex Suprasliensis, one of the most, of the largest manuscripts in Old Church Slavonic. This dating places Macedonian Leaf within the transitional period of Slavic literary development, shifting from its early stages in the Western Slavic area, it means Great Moravia, from where the idea of looser translation come, to the southern part by the end of the 9th century. So me personally, I'm placing the idea of a looser translation to the Great Moravian mission, but the reduction of the Macedonian Leaf, I place it to the Bulgaria. Several words on the structure of the Macedonian Leaf. I have divided the text into 4 parts according to the meaning. The first part discusses how Scripture, the Bible, contains the laws that enable human ascension to heaven. The second part highlights that even heretical authors are not entirely dismissed, as they often confess many things similar to Orthodox beliefs. The third part focuses on translating sacred texts as closely as possible to the original, reflecting the sacred nature of the words. So the translation of biblical text is always rather closer to the letter than other translations, because of the sacred nature of the text. Finally, the fourth part emphasizes the importance of translating according to meaning rather than rigidly sticking to literal words. So this introduces the loosening part of the translation, promoting the meaning over the literacy, of the literalism. This structure reflects a nuanced approach to translation that balances fidelity to the text with the need for intelligibility. The Macedonian Leaf contains important patristic quotations that underscore its approach to translation. Notably, part 2 includes a quotation from Cyril of Alexandria's letter 44 to Eulogius, which states, "Not everything that heretics say is to be dismissed because they confess many things as we do." Another significant quotation in part 4 comes from Dionysius the Areopagitus on the divine names, quoting, "It is irrational and wrong not to pay attention to the power of the meaning, but rather to the words." These quotations highlight the importance of context and meaning in translation, rather than rigid adherence to the literal text. And now, in my presentation, I would like to present my research on the meaning of the Macedonian Leaf. Because of its fragmentary nature, we don't know the context of the whole writing, of the whole treatise. And even the fragment gives us some dispersed information. So the aim of my work is to make a research on the meaning of these 2 patristic quotations in a larger patristic context, so that we could see the patristic context behind the Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf. That's what I would like to propose you now. So the first contextual reading of Cyril's quotation. The quotation from Cyril of Alexandria originally addresses the heresies of Apollinarius and Nestorius. It means Christological debates over the nature of Christ's person, whether there are two persons, human and divine, or one, or how the person of Christ is organized. Very briefly. And this letter 44 functions as a memorandum that summarizes key doctrinal concepts for teaching. Cyril's approach shows a willingness to engage with heretical texts to find a common ground on certain theological points. This approach in Macedonian Leaf reflects a broader translation strategy, where the focus is on the core message rather than the specific terms used by heretical writers, highlighting a more inclusive and context-aware method of translation. In later traditions, Cyril's quotation was used in various contexts, and I found three contexts. A, in dogmatic texts in its original meaning, 5 occurrences. It means that the Christological theme was central in these occurrences. So I call it original meaning. The second one, B, is the only occurrence that I could identify in one Christological florilegium, explaining Orthodox author statements misused by heterodox groups. So it means that Cyril of Alexandria introduced some terms that were misused or abused by heretical authors. For example, mia physis sesarkomeni, one nature, one incarnated nature. And this term was misused by a group of heretics in the eastern part of the Roman Empire. And the third occurrence is in Philokalia and biblical catenae, to justify the use of heterodox sources. It means Origenes and other, I would say, Antiochian authors. This shows that Macedonian Leaf's use of Cyrillic words was not isolated, but part of a broader tradition that valued the substance of theological arguments over their specific verbal formulations. So you can see already there is some crystallization of the theory of looser translation, focusing on the meaning. Next part, contextual reading of Dionysius' quotation. The quotation from Dionysius the Areopagite, the author from the 5th, 6th century, speaks about eros or desire. It's book 4 of this treatise, emphasizing that understanding divine concepts requires moving beyond literal interpretations. In the context of Macedonian Leaf, this quotation serves to underline a translation approach that prioritizes meaning and intent over strict word-for-word accuracy. I add only a small point that there is a quotation from St. Paul's first letter to Corinthians, followed by this quotation from Dionysius. And as we know that Dionysius was considered for a long time as a disciple of St. Paul from Athens, there is some logical and I would say order that the St. Paul's quotation was followed by this quotation from Dionysius' treatise. Dionysius' ideas reflect a balanced perspective that aligns with Macedonian Leaf's overall translation philosophy, conveying the deeper truth of a text is more important than rigid adherence to its literal words. And now, Dionysius' quotation was used in several historical controversies, including the monothelite controversy. It's a controversy concerning the wills of Christ, whether there was one will in Christ or two wills, human and divine, and what was their relationship between one another. Where the content of the statement was deemed more important than its precise wording. Similarly, during the iconoclastic controversy, it was emphasized that the intention behind an act was crucial in determining its acceptability. These historical uses highlight the broader application of Dionysius' ideas, which resonate with Macedonian Leaf's approach to translation, that it is the intent and the meaning that must be faithfully communicated. And so, just having a look at our table, I found in all 4 occurrences of this quotation in patristic production, one of which was directly in a monothelite controversy. The last one was used in iconoclastic controversy, and the medium one, the B, was used in a dogmatic florilegium for defending the orthodoxy of Cyril of Alexandria and of his, I would say, formulations, dogmatic. So now we are searching the background of the Slavic translation theory. I would like to propose one kind of reading of these occurrences, these, I would say, simultaneous occurrences of these 2 quotations. The simultaneous presence of both Cyril's and Dionysius' quotations is attested only, as far as I know, in the dogmatic florilegium Doctrina Patrum de Incarnatione Verbi. It means it's a dogmatic florilegium from Byzantine times used to defend the orthodoxy of Cyril of Alexandria's formulations. And the core is the following, that the wording was problematic, but the ideas behind were right. And the context of this florilegium aligns with Macedonian Leaf's translation approach, which favors understanding over literal fidelity. This florilegium emphasizes that understanding meaning is more crucial than strict adherence to words. This alignment suggests that the translation theory attested by Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf was influenced or could be influenced by these Byzantine dogmatic debates, particularly in defending the orthodoxy and authority of Cyril of Alexandria during Christological controversies. I would say this is the core of my presentation. Let's conclude. In conclusion, I would say that Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf contextual reading of patristic quotations suggests that early Slavic translation theory was significantly shaped by Byzantine theological controversies, especially the defense of the authority of Cyril of Alexandria during the Christological debates of the first millennium. The focus on conveying meaning rather than rigid literalism allowed Slavic translators to engage with the texts in a way that was both faithful to the original and accessible to the intended audience. This approach, likely introduced by Cyril Constantine himself, who was an excellent, I would say, theologian, and he knew by heart the patristic writings, especially is what is known is Gregory of Nazianzus and Dionysius the Areopagite, the second one. So this approach, likely introduced by Cyril Constantine himself, shaped early Slavic Christian literature and translation methods. However, this approach did not last long, as it shifted towards literalness within a few years in the pre-Slavian Bulgarian context. And just a small addition at the end of my paper. As far as the heretics are concerned, I would propose, maybe it's too much, but I propose that the idea of Syro-Methodian translations and mission had to coexist with preceding missions. It means Frankish missions in Great Moravian contexts. So I propose that Cyril and Methodius and their disciples did not damage the production, the literal translations of their predecessors. We have very little knowledge about what preceded Syro-Methodian project. But they had to bore with it, to cope with it. And so they included everything possible to their project, according also to the rules that are promoted in the Macedonian Cyrillic Leaf. So thank you for your attention.